Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're just seeing my video, you're welcome. My name is Stella. Okay, so in this channel, in my channel, I teach everything fashion, and I give a very detailed method on how to go about any style. Okay, now in this video, we're going to learn how to draft a cap sleeve. Okay, so we'll draft, we'll cut, and then we'll sew. Okay, now this is what we're going to be learning how to attach. It sits well on the shoulder and you can raise your arm as well. Okay, all right, so let's jump right into the video. Okay, so let's start with our drafting. So we'll just take a marginal line up here. Okay, so all our draftings are going to start from here downwards. Okay, so let's commence. Now the first thing you're going to do is to get the length of your sleeve. Now the length of a cap sleeve ranges between 4 inches to 6 inches. Now it depends on how covered you want it to be. Okay, so for mine, I want my length to be 5.75. I want it to cover a little. Okay, so I want my length to be 5.75. Okay, so I will place my ruler, my tape, and I'll make a mark at 5.75. Now this is 5.75, and I'll connect that with a straight line. Now the next thing we're going to do is to take our bust round. Now the bust round I'm working with is 40. So 40 divided by 6 plus 1.5. Now this is the formula to get your armhole curve. Okay, so 40 divided by 6 plus 1.5, that will give me 8.16. So we'll round it up to 8. Now that 8, for a cap sleeve, you subtract 3. Okay, so 8 minus 3, that's 5. We'll go ahead and make a mark here at my 5 inches. Okay, I'll also measure it upwards like so and make a mark here at my 5 inches. So I have 5 inches here and 5 inches here. So I'll go ahead and connect that. Okay, so I've connected. Let me highlight this point so that we'll know where we're working with. Okay, so this is it. Now the next thing we're going to do is to measure this entire line. What we have here is 5 inches. Okay, half of it, we're going to divide it by 2. Now half of it is 2.5. Okay, now at the 2.5, we're going to take the middle of this as well. Remember, we took the entire line, the entire length from here to here is 5 inches. The middle of it is 2.5, and at that 2.5, we're going to take the middle of this side. Okay, so what you're going to do is place your tape like so and then collapse it, to avoid unnecessary calculation. Fold it to meet that first mark. Okay, and just make a dot there. And then 2.5 over 2 is actually is 1.25. Okay, now but instead of doing that calculation, you can just do what I just did. Now from this point, from this middle, from this 2.5 mark, we're going to come down by 1 inch. Okay, so come down by 1 inch like so. Okay, now we're going to be connecting a curve that will pass from here to meet this point and end here. Okay, our curve is going to start from here, go through this point and meet here. Okay, like so. You can work with a broken line, whatever works for you. You can make use of a broken line, at first, then you go ahead and finish that up. Okay, so this is what I have. Now we'll go ahead and cut. That's it, it's ready. Now remember that there's no allowance here, but I want to add my allowances so that when I'm cutting on my fabric, it will be direct. Okay, so to add my allowance, I'm going to add my 1/2 inch turning allowance here, because I'm going to be turning this with a lining. So I'll add my ½ inch allowance. If you're not going to turn this with a lining, it's simply fine. You can still go ahead and add your ½ inch, because you're going to hem this down part, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and add my ½ inch allowance all round, like so. Just make sure that it's a bit is rounded, okay? Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead and cut this, then we'll place it on our fabric and cut out. Okay, and that's it with the cutting. Our cap sleeve is ready. I'm going to bring my fabric. So this is it. Now we're going to, when you're working with a lace, you need to first cut on your satin before transferring to the main lace, okay? So we're going to go ahead and so I've cut out my satin. Now I will use this to turn the lace, and I will use the satin as my lining as well, okay? So I want to cut the two of them at once. So I'll pin. This is our pattern. I'll pin this way. So I'll go ahead and cut this out, okay? Okay, so just notch your middle point like so, okay? Then the next thing we're going to do is to bring the lace, okay? So place. You can place and pin, but for the lace, I like to cut excess, because lace can be funny, especially the ones that have a little bit of stretch. So I like to I like to cut excess of the lace. I don't cut my lace exact, okay? So this is how I cut my lace. Now it's time for us to take off the pins. Now the next thing we're going to do is to spread. Can you see how rounded this is? Okay, now we're going to spread. Remember I said that we'll use one as our lining, so we spread it like so. Then we're going to place our lace on top of it. Remember that we cut our lace excess, okay? We didn't cut exact. Now we've placed, we need to go ahead and pin. So you pin it down, then you take it to your machine and just stitch on these lines. Now there's also another way, okay? If you want it faster and you don't want to pin, all you have to do is get a fabric glue, and I'll have to get it and show us. All right, so if you don't want to pin, take your sewing machine and stitch round, you can use this fabric glue. This is ubu gum, okay? Now what I usually do is I'll take this off. I'll take off my pins, okay? Now okay, there's still one more pin here. Now I'll get my glue, open it, and just drop it a little at the edges. Just watch what I'm doing. A little. Now I'm done. The next thing we'll do is to go ahead and place. Remember that we cut excess, okay? So we place this way. Can you see now? Now just give it a little press. You know those outfits you see and it looks like the underlining is a bit separated inside. The reason is because it's not aligning well, it's not laying flat with the lace. Okay, now, and sometimes when you stitch and you don't pin down first, you don't pin down your lace to your underlining and you stitch, it gives you that effect. Okay, but if you want to stitch, you need to pin properly. Pin the underlining to the lace firmly, then take to your sewing machine and stitch, or you use your fabric glue like I just did, and then place it down. Okay, like I've just done, and that's it. When it's a bit dry, you just give it a few minutes, keep pressing it like I'm doing. When it's a bit dry, we'll come in with our scissors and trim. Okay, okay, and here we have it. And it's still laying flat, our sleeve. This is it. Now we're going to go ahead and turn this with our lining. Remember I told us that we're going to be using this satin also as my lining. So we place it, this is the right sides facing each other like so. Okay, then we'll pin. We're going to pin it down. So here we have it. Now we're going to go ahead and mark. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Remember we added 0.5 allowance here at the bottom. Now we're going to go ahead and turn and mark our 0.5. Now I'll take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch on this line. Okay, I'll stitch on this line, then I'll come back and show us. Okay, so I'm done stitching. I've stitched on the 0.5 that we marked. It's time for us to take off the pins. Now after you take off the pins, you need to take this to the sewing machine and top stitch. Now when I say top stitch, I mean see this allowance that we have inside, we're going to push it to the side of the satin and then we're going to stitch on top. So I'll take this to the machine and I'm going to stitch on top like this. Okay, now I'm stitching on the side of the satin and not on the main fabric. Okay, so I'll do this, then I'll come back and show us. Okay, so after you top stitch, I've top stitched. Okay, then you go ahead and give it a good press. I've pressed mine. Okay, you can see that it's laying flat well. Now I wanted to show us this before I trim off. Now you can notice that the lining is jumping a bit. Now that's because you top stitched. Okay, if yours is like this, it's not a problem. I just wanted to show us that. So the next thing we're going to do is to go ahead and pin. Okay, we're going to pin this down. Okay, so I've pinned. Now the next thing we're going to do is to take it to the sewing machine and top stitch on this so that we can trim off the excess of the lining. Okay, so I'll take this to the machine and stitch round, stitch this to the lining, and then I'll also trim off. Okay, then I'll come back and show us what next. Okay, so I'm done. I've stitched it down. Okay, then let's go ahead and trim off these excesses that we have there. So we're done. Now we'll go ahead and make a notch to signify the middle. Okay, so just fold it in two, then we're giving it a notch here. Okay, so now we have a center. Now the next thing we're going to do is to bring our dress. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to bring the dress that will be fitting this sleeve. Okay, so this is our dress. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fix one sleeve, but let me show us how to fix it. Okay, now what we're going to do is to first come in with your tape, measuring tape. Okay, then you place your dress like so. Okay, you place your dress this way, then from the side joining here, okay, from the side seam, under the armhole. Okay, this is the dress under the armhole here. We're going to take our tape and measure 3 inches. So we measure 3 inches or 3.5. Okay, so let's say we're taking 3.5. Okay, so you measure 3.5 there, and then you give it a notch. Okay, this is 3.5 for the front. Okay, you give it a notch, and then for the back as well, you're also placing your tape at this the side seam joining that we have here. You place your tape there, and then you go up the armhole like so. You also measure your 3.5. Okay, and you give it a notch too. Okay, now we're going to come in with our sleeve. Okay, now we're going to come in with our sleeve. Okay, this is our sleeve. So come in with our sleeve like so. Let me zoom it in. All right, so we come in with our sleeve like so. Then remember our notch here. So you align your notch to the notch on the shoulder, to the shoulder joining, and you will pin. Okay, then we're going to place the sleeve round. You can see our notch here. You can see that it is longer. The sleeve is longer. Okay, now what we're going to do is to introduce a little pleat, or you can do gathers, but I want to do pleats. Okay, so what we're going to do is get the tip of the sleeve like so, place it at that 3.5 inches notch that we have there. Okay, and then you pin it. Okay, so you place and pin it down like I just did. Then the front as well, remember our notch. You take the tip, the very end of your sleeve, and you place it there. Okay, you place it there, and then you pin it down as well. Can you see that we have a little bit of excess? Now we're going to pleat this towards the center. Okay, so to pleat this, what we're going to do is we're pleating away from the center. Okay, remember that this is the wrong side, so we'll take it and pleat it this way. Okay, you can measure, but for me this is 1 inch away from the center front. Okay, so you place you pleat and you pin down. Okay, so you pleat and you pin down like I just did. Then we still have another excess. Then you give a gap of about 1 inch. Then you pick up the remaining excess. Okay, then we'll pleat this way, and then we'll pin down. Okay, so this is it for this side. Now for this other side, for the back side, we are repeating the same thing. You pick up the first one, and then you pleat to face the center like so. Okay, remember the distance must be the same, so you pleat to face the center like so. Okay, so and here we have it. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and stitch round this armhole like so. I'm going to stitch from here all the way to this point. Then I'll come back and show us. Okay, all right guys, so as you can see, we've joined our sleeve. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is to use the bias to finish the rough edges. Okay, now what we're going to do is bring your bias. We'll start from the right side and sew, and flip it inwards. Now you get your bias, and then we're pinning this way. Okay, then you turn it to the wrong side and continue. Okay, so we are pinning it on the seam allowance. Okay, our 0.5. Okay, so I'll pin this down round, then I'll stitch. Now after I'm done stitching, I'll come back and show us what next to do. All right guys, so i'm done I'm done with it. Okay, so I'm done sewing my bias. Remember, I sewed my bias from the right side into the wrong side, so this is how we are flipping. Okay, I did the same on this side as well. We're flipping this way. Okay, now I don't like sewing on this. You know, we're supposed to place it this way and stitch round. If you do that, the seam lines are going to show here. Okay, and I don't want that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is to go ahead and hem. Okay, we can go ahead and use our needle and thread and hem this to the lining. Okay, so that end of the day we will not see any stitch line on this dress. Okay, so we're going to fold it this way. Okay, then I'll get my needle and thread and I'll do a blind hem round this, so that end of the day the stitches are not going to reflect outside. Okay, I'll do the same on this other sleeve, then I'll show us the final look. All right guys, so we're done with the dress, we're done with the armhole. Okay, so you can see the tacks are inside. Okay, outside you cannot see any seam line. Okay, now this is it. Also this same side, um all the tackings are inside, the outside is clean. Okay, so we've come to the end of the cap sleeve video. Okay, kindly like, subscribe and share, leave your comments. If you have a question, go ahead and ask in the comment section, or just appreciate the video. Leave your remarks. It must not always be questions. All right guys, kindly subscribe and subscribe. Okay, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.